Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. Introduction. Let me begin by emphasizing the importance of home security, a lesson I learned the hard way. As I recount the events that unfolded, I urge every reader to prioritize safeguarding their homes, especially when traveling far or for an extended period. Never assume that someone will detect and address a robbery on your behalf. With that said, let's delve into the story that led me to share this crucial advice with all of you. Unlike most tales of troublesome neighbors that typically revolve around feuds or ill-natured behavior, my experience was different. The couple living next door had always been exceptionally friendly. Our interactions were filled with pleasant conversations, and we had never encountered any issues with them before. In fact, they had even entrusted us with the task of collecting their mail when they went away for a weekend. So there were no apparent warning signs of the unfortunate events that lay ahead. My spouse and I were embarking on a 2-week journey that would take us 2,000 miles away from home. To cover such a vast distance, we chose to fly, leaving our car parked in the driveway rather than in the cramped garage, which was already brimming with miscellaneous items. Though our neighborhood was considered safe, little did anyone know that I had recently acquired a surveillance camera specifically designed to monitor our front door. Its purpose was to alert us about package deliveries and other activities. Little did I anticipate the shocking truth that would soon be unveiled. The dramatic incident. A notification from the surveillance camera disrupted our peaceful getaway, revealing footage of our neighbors standing on our porch, picking the lock to our house. In broad daylight, without a single soul raising an alarm, they invaded our home and began ransacking our belongings. The cameras placed both inside and outside the house provided an unwelcome front row seat to their audacious act, capturing the very moment they drove away in our car. Helpless and furious, I struggled to compose myself, but my wife's calming presence reassured me. She swiftly contacted the local police, informing them of the ongoing robbery. Coordinating with law enforcement proved challenging due to the distance and the inability to securely transmit the incriminating footage stored on our phones. Frustrated by the limitations, we made an impulsive decision to cut our vacation short. Foregoing our planned return home, we headed straight to the police station, eager to present the evidence to the officers we had been communicating with remotely. Finally, we could reveal the truth. Our neighbors, once considered friendly acquaintances, were the culprits behind this heinous crime. Confronting the neighbors. The police wasted no time and swiftly arranged for the arrest of our thieving neighbors. Accompanying the officers, we relished the anticipation of witnessing the shock on their faces as they were caught red-handed. Desperation oozed from their every word as they concocted a feeble defense, claiming that we had granted them permission to enter our house and borrow our car during our absence. They insisted that someone had mistakenly alerted the police and they were merely attempting to save face. However, their fabricated story crumbled the instant they laid eyes on us, standing resolutely beside the officers. In court, we all watched the surveillance footage that had sealed their fate. Overwhelmed by the undeniable evidence, the couple recognized that a trial would only expose their guilt further. To avoid the inevitable consequences, they proposed returning or replacing everything they had stolen in exchange for dropped charges. Realizing that it would likely be the outcome even with a trial, we spared ourselves the arduous legal battle and agreed to their terms. The epilogue. Our stolen car, fortunately, remained unharmed, tucked away at the house of one of their acquaintances. Regrettably, our cherished belongings were not as fortunate. The couple had brazenly sold most of our possessions, including precious paintings, my beloved guitar, and my wife's valuable jewelry. Determining the true value of sentimental items proved challenging, leading to extensive negotiations and ultimately a substantial payout of approximately $30,000. While we managed to replace our stolen belongings with the compensation received, one thing remained irreparable: the trust and friendship we had once shared with our neighbors. To our dismay, they continue to reside next door, and an eerie feeling now permeates the air between our houses. Despite their absence of prior criminal history, the court sentenced them to community service, yet they now avoid any eye contact with us. To ensure our peace of mind during future travels, We contemplate entrusting a close friend or family member with the responsibility of house sitting, guarding against the possibility of a neighbor's encore performance. The next one is a pro-revenge story. I am a professional driver. As such, on the roads in the US, there are different truck stops throughout the country that have a pay-to-park system, usually with about 10-20% of the lot marked off as reserved, and each space running from $15-25. The truck stop where this took place had parking for $17, which is relatively cheap for a guaranteed spot. The spots are reserved for 24 hours, starting at 4 p.m. local time and extending to 3 p.m. the following afternoon. I knew that I would have a late-night delivery, so I came to the truck stop around 3:30 and paid for a reserved spot. I told the manager on duty that I had a delivery up the road that night and would be back once the delivery was completed, but I should still be able to clear out the spot by the next afternoon, today. She told me that this was okay and she would mark the spot as sold when I left. That way, if someone else comes in trying to reserve that spot, she could consult her notes and deny the sale. 11:15 p.m. rolls around, and I take off for my delivery. I don't get out of that facility until 2:30 a.m. the next morning, this morning, so I groggily drive back to the truck stop to reclaim my paid-for spot, only to find that the reserved parking spaces are all full. I call the manager on duty and, after giving her my info, inform her that all the spots are full and that someone has parked in a spot and hasn't paid for it. She sends her other employee out to start checking trucks. The culprit was from a company that is known for their bright orange trailers, and he was a company driver. The other employee starts banging on his door to inform him that he is parked illegally and he has to move. Meanwhile, I can see the commotion from my mirror, with my vantage point in the fuel island, where I had been instructed to temporarily park. The driver answers the door with a bottle of Heineken in one hand and some sort of smoking implement in another. I know what it is, but for the sake of the mods, I'm not going to say it. I decide to roll down the window to hear the commotion, and I hear the employee tell the driver to either move, or he will get the towing company and police involved. This driver is flat out irate that someone had the audacity to tell him where he can and cannot park, so he slams the door on the employee, threatening him. The employee calls the police and tow company, and the police show up first. I had worked for this company before, so I know their policies, and more importantly, what they can and cannot have in their trucks. Alcoholic beverages are not allowed in the cab. Anything that isn't a cigarette or a cigar and a lighter is also not allowed. The coup de grace, a pew-pew of any kind, is absolutely not allowed, especially not loaded. This driver had all that, and some other not-so-legal substances in his cab, so he was hauled away in cuffs. His truck was hauled away on a wrecker. After the commotion died down, I made a call to the company safety director and informed them that their rig will be in an impound lot, and their driver is going to jail over the not-so-legal stuff he had in his truck. She thanked me and said that he will definitely lose his job, especially over the alcohol and the other not-so-legal stuff. I guess he played the screw-around-and-find-out card, and it bit him in his career. The next one is a petty revenge story. About 6 years ago, my former partner of 6 years and I broke up, and I started to realize all of the things I had normalized were actually abuse. Instances of gaslighting were all too prevalent, even one instance where she gaslit me about what gaslighting even was. Financial control. She could spend what she wanted, I had to ask permission. Even limiting the time that I spent with my family and my best mate. There was more, but that's enough of that. After we broke up, I realized that the money I had continued to place into our joint account wasn't going towards the mortgage as promised, but was going towards shopping, paying for her new partner, who it turned out was on the scene months before we split, and wasn't the first, and payments to her lawyer. When I found this out, I called the finance company handling our mortgage and told them I would no longer be making payments. I told them they could seize the house if they wanted, but my half of the payments would cease immediately until I had recouped the money stolen, roughly 5 months' worth of payments. They said I couldn't do that. I told them to watch me. Soon after that, when the debt letters and dishonors started, the texts, phone calls, and voicemails from her started, I ignored everyone. 2 months in, I heard her car broke down badly because she couldn't afford to maintain it. Not long after that, she filed for bankruptcy. A month later, she moved out and I got my house back. I cleaned it up, changed the locks, got my mortgage back in front, And recently, my wife and I sold it for a tidy little profit. She got nothing. Not a dollar, not a dime. She has no usable credit rating, and my wife and I are debt-free with a deposit on our new home. Feels good. The next one is an entitled parent story. Growing up, my mom had told me she was raising me to be the best child because she knew I would achieve more. My mom was way harsher on my grades, sports, academic clubs, looks, and personal life than my little brother. I admit I grew up hating my little brother for all the freedom he had while I was always isolated. I was always grounded. I was working multiple jobs not only to save up for college, but also to help with the family bills. When my brother got a job, he was able to spend the money on what he wanted. My mom told me what my career goal was, what person I should marry, how she would move in with me after I buy my house to raise the children and take care of her. My mom was the type to blow money on designer stuff while we slept in hotels and cars at one point. I hated being poor. All I wanted was a house growing up, a nice small house for us. If I dated someone my mom didn't approve of, she would do everything to sabotage the relationship because they were not good enough for me. Well, I went to law school and was getting my JD when I met my now current boyfriend. They say when gosh, did we know right away? He moved me in after 3 days and we haven't been away from each other since. I love his family and they also love me. He was raised upper middle class and had amazing parents. He was also at the top of the law school and just felt too perfect for me. My mom disagreed. She didn't like him one bit because anytime she said something to make herself look smart, he called her out and said, "Nope, you're wrong." He provided facts and even showed her sources. Oh, she hates to be proven wrong. I told my boyfriend how my mother raised me and what she expects from me growing up. Well, he wasn't going to have it. He said she would be lucky to even know her grandchildren. My mom started to see her plans unraveling with my new boyfriend and tried to break us up multiple times. When she started making fun of his parents, he drew the line. He called her out and said we were done with her. The panic was real for my mom in that moment. I was her meal ticket. She demanded that I make a choice, my own mother or a man I had only been dating for a year. I chose my boyfriend. We have been together for almost 3 years. I dropped out of law school and now work remotely at an amazing job. He graduated at the top of his class and was hired immediately. Our income is way above what I expected, and sometimes I cry at night for how blessed I feel. Growing up, I always begged to have a home I could call my own. Now, we may have a home together in a few years. She will send threats and make up excuses to try to contact me in order to get back into my life. We plan to get married soon, and we know we have to keep it really quiet because she will either call in a threat or try to show up. The next one is an entitled parent's story. So this happened a few weeks ago. I stopped at a local comic book shop to pick up a hardback copy of The Last Ronin. For those who aren't familiar with the book, it's a teenage mutant ninja turtle story where 3 of the brothers have been killed, and the surviving brother is on a mission to avenge their deaths. As I'm taking the book to the counter to buy it, these 2 kids, a boy and girl, who look to be between 5 and 7 years old, see the book and ask their parents for a copy. While I'm speaking with the cashier, their father approaches me. "Father, excuse me, my kids were interested in that book you have. Are there any more copies?" Me, "Yes, there's one more, but this specific book is pretty violent for kids their age. You'd probably be better off buying them another title," pointing to another Turtles book. Mother, who joined the conversation, "It's Ninja Turtles. I'm pretty sure my kids can handle characters from a Nickelodeon show." Me, "But this book is more in the tradition of the original comics from the 80s. Father, it's fine. Just show me where the book is." Me, "Okay, it's right on that first shelf, but I warned you." So I continue talking with the cashier as the family sits down to look through the book. All of a sudden, we start hearing crying from both kids as they see their favorite heroes on a half-shell meet their doom. The father tries to console the kids while the mother angrily approaches the counter. Mother, "What is this? Ninja Turtles are supposed to be for kids, but after seeing this book, they'll never be able to look at turtles the same. This book just ruined my kids' favorite cartoon for them." Cashier, "Ma'am, we tried to warn you that these weren't the Nickelodeon turtles your kids like, and I even suggested a more family-friendly title for you, but you insisted on that one." Mother, "You shouldn't be selling this book in the first place." And with that, she demands that the cashier lets them have 2 different books free of charge to apologize for the emotional stress the kids now had to deal with. Cashier, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but you were warned about the book. I can't just give you something for free because your kids are crying. Besides, you didn't even purchase that copy, The Last Ronin. Hearing that, the mother tries blocking people from buying anything, but she quickly stops at the threat of the cashier calling the police. She mutters something about getting people together to boycott the store until it gets shut down, and then she storms out. As of today, the store is doing just fine. Guess the boycott didn't quite go as planned for her. The next one is a choosing beggars story. This story is from a few years ago when I worked in the legal department of the 1,000-plus store national retailer. As part of my job, I handled customer complaints that escalated when the customer threatened legal action. The cast is very simple. Me =me, EM Karen, who was also an attorney. AE our awesome attorney. Our customer service call center forwarded EM's call to me after she threatened legal action. EM left a message claiming that she was not provided $10 in customer reward coupons. Spend $200, receive a $10 coupon in the mail sort of thing. This was before apps, based on her purchase of clothing for her son and daughter for back to school. I looked into it and called EM back. It turned out we had an old address associated with her rewards account. No big deal, right? I spoke with EM and offered to send her the original $10 coupon and an additional $25 for her trouble to the correct address. That did not satisfy EM. She claimed we should have known her address and threatened to sue us if we didn't pay her $1,000 in cash. Her rationale was that it would cost us at least $1,000 to defend the suit. She was in a state in which our company did not have any offices, so we should just pay it to her. I declined, but still forwarded her the $10 coupon she was entitled to pursuant to our rewards program. Sure enough, she sued us for breach of contract, fraud, and any other conceivable charge. I went to my boss, the COO, and told him the story. He asked what I wanted to do. I said I'd rather pay legal fees to a defense attorney than pay EM, and he agreed. I contacted AE, explained the situation to him, and you not, he said, in a southern drawl. I get to sue EM? I should be paying you guys. There are a lot of lawyers in this legal community who would love to sue her as she is reckless, unpleasant, and a total pain in the ass to deal with. I'll gladly take your case. He agreed to defend us at a reduced rate. Part of our defense strategy was to counter-sue her under the state's frivolous lawsuit statute, which would move the suit from small claims court to the larger civil court. AE filed our answer and counterclaim. Although EM was an attorney, she was not a defense attorney, so she had to engage her own attorney to defend against the counterclaim. After a couple of hearings, she offered to settle for no more money exchanged. She didn't even get the extra $25 coupon I offered her, and the dismissal of both suits. I talked with AE about continuing our claim, but he advised it would probably be worth settling and being done with it rather than being vindictive. Although vindictive would have been fun, courts tend not to like that, so I agreed. My company ended up paying AE $900 in attorney's fees. AE later called and told us that the attorney EM engaged charged her $1,700 to defend the suit. Although I would have liked to continue with our suit, I think her having to pay $1,700 over a $10 coupon sent to the wrong address is sufficient justice. The next one is a choosing beggars story. During high school, I worked as a customer assistance clerk, aka a bagger, at the local grocery store. It wasn't a bad job. I would ask, paper or plastic, and put the groceries in bags. I made sure not to break the eggs and loaded the groceries into customers' cars. I also brought in a couple of carts. The pay wasn't great, but it wasn't too hard either. However, there were a couple of downsides to the job. The first issue was the tips. Although customers often offered tips, we had to refuse them due to the company's strict no-tipping policy. Taking a tip could lead to getting fired. The weird thing was that people got offended when we refused their tips. The second problem was a regular customer we'll call Karen. She was a choosing beggar. She would try to use expired coupons and wanted us to price match a competitor sale flyer from several weeks ago. Whenever this happened, the manager would be called. Karen would eat cherries and grapes as she went through the store and then only pay for what was left in the package based on its weight. We would catch her, but she would deny it. She would overload her cart to the point where it damaged products, and then she would want those items discounted or given for free. Once again, the manager would be called, Karen would watch us bag her groceries like a postmenopausal hawk and tell us how to do our jobs. She would say things like, "Meat needs to be double bagged," "Don't put all those cans in one bag," and "Don't crush my potato chips." I completed the putting crap in a bag course when I got hired, Karen. I got this. On this particular day, my friend Tony got stuck bagging Karen's groceries. She switched from paper to plastic after he had already bagged half of her groceries, so he had to rebag everything. Then, she wanted him to put everything in a different cart because the one he had picked didn't look clean enough. When the cashier gave her the total, she lost her temper. According to her, the prices were too damn high, and she accused the store of trying to rob her. She demanded to know why she didn't get double the coupon value. The cashier explained that Double Coupon Tuesday was only on Tuesday, not on Thursday. Apparently, Karen couldn't make it on Tuesday, so she believed we should give her double coupon values on Thursday. Once again, the manager was called. The manager explained the complicated policy to Karen. Double Coupon Tuesday is only on Tuesday, not on Thursday. Karen responded with, "Duck it, then I don't want any of it." At this point, the manager just surrendered and gave her double the coupon value to get her out of the store. The cashier was pissed, Tony was pissed, and the customers in line behind Karen were pissed. As Tony was putting Karen's groceries in her car, she warned him, "Be careful loading my groceries and don't expect a tip from me." Tony replied, "Company policy prohibits us from taking tips." He should have stopped there, but he didn't. He continued, "Besides, what would I do with your last dollar?" Karen began to boil with anger and said she was going to go inside and tell the manager that he demanded a tip. Karen stormed off angrily. Now Tony could have gone inside and spoken to the manager. The manager might have believed him, especially since he knew Tony was a good guy, and that Karen was a total wackadoodle. Instead, Tony said, "Duck it!" Karen stormed in and grabbed the manager. We all watched through the big windows as Tony started slamming bag after bag into the trunk of her rusted-ass Cadillac sedan DeVille while cussing like a drunken Norwegian. Food was flying everywhere, sodas were exploding, and boxes were ripping open. Oh dear Lord, the eggs. For once, Karen was speechless. The manager was speechless. Hell, everyone was speechless. Tony walked in, took off his apron, and handed it to the manager. He turned to Karen and said, "Have a nice day, come again." Then he flipped her the bird and walked out, leaving his mark on retail history. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.